There are certain things that you should never do to your Toyota hybrid vehicle. I'm going to tell you what those things are just ahead in this video. And if you stay and watch till the end, I've got a little tidbit for you that I bet you didn't know about your Toyota hybrid. All right, what you're looking at here is your typical 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander hybrid. And what I'm about to tell you is true for most of the newer Toyota hybrid vehicles, whether you're talking about a Grand Highlander hybrid, a regular non-Grand Highlander hybrid, a RAV4 hybrid, a Corolla Cross hybrid, and so on. So like I mentioned earlier, there's a couple things that you want to try to avoid and not do in your hybrid Toyota vehicle to preserve its maintenance and longevity. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. All right, let's get started. So if you open up your back passenger door, you will be greeted with your middle row or back seats. A lot of stuff happens in these back seats. You've got car seats, you've got another car seat, you've got your kids usually in the back, babies in the back, you've got groceries, you've got cases of water, maybe a cooler, maybe bags of ice. You get my point. Well, if you didn't know, most of our hybrid Toyota vehicles, underneath the middle row or your back seats is typically where your high voltage hybrid Toyota battery lies. That's right, most of our hybrid Toyota batteries do sit underneath the rear seats of our hybrid Toyotas, and this is typically where technicians or your Toyota store will access the air filter and do any kind of routine scheduled maintenance that they have to do pertaining to the hybrid Toyota battery and system. So what I'm about to tell you is true if you have leather, Softex, fabric seats, and so on. You want to be careful with any kind of spills in your back seats. You see here, this Softex is perforated, so fluids and water can still penetrate through it, even on the fabric, of course. If you spill enough water, enough liquid, the liquid will penetrate through the seat, and then you don't want it to end up resting in where the battery cavity is. Now, there is a protective casing and housing that sits around the high voltage battery, but that's really just to protect from contact. It's not really for waterproofing. So if you spill enough water, if you have some melted bags of ice or a cooler that spills all over your seats, or something happens where your kid spills something, you want to be careful. I would recommend to take it in to your Toyota store just to make sure that everything is okay. The problem won't happen and come right away, but as that water sits and penetrates through, it could potentially start some corrosion where you might have some issues if you've spilled enough water and enough fluid. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, like I said, don't need to panic. You don't need to be overprotective and cautious. Just if you're ever carrying anything with a lot of water, a lot of fluid in your back seats, whether it's your RAV4 hybrid, Highlander hybrid, just be careful. And if you spill enough where it's wet, the seat is actually wet, the fabric, the material, the Softex is, soaked, be careful. Just book it in, bring it into your Toyota store, have them check it, make sure that no water seeped underneath the seat where the battery lies, just to prevent any future issues potentially that you don't want to have. All right, what's the other thing that you should never do with your hybrid Toyota vehicle? You should never jumpstart another vehicle. That's right. I'm going to tell you why. Now, for anyone who doesn't understand what jumpstart means, it means boost another vehicle. If you have your neighbor's vehicle or your coworker's vehicle that's dead, typically what happens is you get your jumper cables, you connect it to your vehicle that has power, and you boost the other vehicle. Don't do that with a hybrid Toyota vehicle. Let me tell you why. So there's quite a lot of parts on a hybrid Toyota that don't exist when you're comparing to your conventional combustion Toyota vehicle. And one of them, actually two of them, One's a starter and the other is an alternator. There's no alternator on hybrid Toyota vehicles. They have something different. They have a DC to DC converter that converts the super high voltage from your hybrid battery and converts it to the lower voltage that it needs to charge up your smaller 12 volt battery. There's no alternator on these hybrid Toyotas. So having said that, you don't want to use your hybrid Toyota battery or your hybrid Toyota in general to boost or jumpstart another non-hybrid vehicle, because it will strain and put strain on the system, and it could potentially cause some electronical or electrical issues, I should say, on your vehicle. Now, one more thing you might want to know is that your 12 volt battery is actually not underneath your engine bay, and that's to preserve some space. There's really no space for it. You've got some other components here that support your hybrid system. So there's no space for there's no space for a 12 volt battery. The 12 volt batteries for 99% of our hybrid Toyota vehicles are actually located in the rear of the vehicle. Let me show you. Okay, now that we're in the rear of the vehicle here, once you take off this cover, it's like a protective vented cover, you will have access to your 12 volt battery, which is located in the back. And like I said, this is true to pretty much all of our hybrid Toyotas. They're usually somewhere in the rear trunk area of the vehicle, like I mentioned, to preserve space. Do not use jumper cables on this battery or on any battery in your hybrid Toyota to jumpstart another non-hybrid Toyota vehicle. Now, why do I keep saying don't jumpstart a non-hybrid Toyota vehicle? That's because if you really needed to and wanted to help someone out and they have a hybrid Toyota, you can use your hybrid Toyota to jumpstart their hybrid Toyota. And that's simply because they both have similar systems. And what do I mean by that? They both don't have a starter, they don't have an alternator, so the amount of power that you're transferring over should not and will not cause any kind of harm to your electrical and hybrid system. Now guys, avoiding these things can help to preserve the longevity of your hybrid Toyota vehicle. We already know that these hybrid Toyotas are fantastic and the best on the market, and avoiding these things can just help them last a lot longer without any potential aggravation or costs. Now, one more thing I want to share with you guys, and that is the tidbit I mentioned earlier, is that you can actually jumpstart your own hybrid Toyota vehicle if you needed to. Let me explain. So yeah, there's no battery, 12 volt battery here anywhere under the engine bay, but if you go over to this fuse box here and you pop it open, you'll see that there is a positive terminal embedded into the fuse box. So what you can do, if you're ever stuck and without power, you can actually open this little lever here. It exposes your positive terminal. You hook up your positive, you hook up your negative, which you can use these bolts here if you like. And just like that, you can actually jumpstart your own vehicle from the front underneath your engine bay without even going to your 12 volt battery. Guys, did Toyota think of everything or what? There it is again, just a little close-up shot. That is your positive terminal that Toyota has provided you underneath your fuse box here. You hook it up to that, you hook it up to a negative, and you will have power. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed these tips on what to not do with your hybrid Toyota vehicle. And also, if you ever get stuck without power and you need to get a boost, how you can actually jumpstart your own hybrid Toyota. Pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed the review. We'll catch you in the next video, guys. Take care.